Good evening, folks. Back to Dual Destinies. It's been a few days, but finally got some time to get back into this. So I think when we last left off, we're going to be doing a trial in the courtroom of that blew up. And we're going to try and figure out what really happened 7 years ago. A little research. I looked into those special psych locks you mentioned, Mr. Nick. You did? That's great. I really appreciate it. A red psych lock protects a secret a person is consciously trying to hide. If the person folds under questioning, the lock breaks and the truth comes out. Yep, that's exactly how I got the truth out of Detective Fulbright and Director Cosmos. But a black psych lock protects a secret from the deepest place in a person's heart. A secret that person isn't even consciously aware of. So even they don't know it's there. Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and her memories are sealed off even from herself. Okay, so all I have to do is break the psych locks. According to my research, a black psych lock is like a heavy chain wrapped directly around one's heart. If they are ripped off by force, it could cause permanent damage to a person's soul. In other words, if I'm not careful, I could traumatize Athena for good. Gulp. Pearls, could you stay by Athena's side? She must be suffering under the weight of such a heavy burden. Alright. But will you be alright by yourself, Mr. Nick? I'm up against Edgeworth. I have to be able to give this trial all of my focus and strength. And you can't do that if I'm there. I'll just hold you back. No, that's not it. I just meant I can relax and concentrate if I knew you were with Athena. You're the only one who can do it, Pearls. Alright. I'll do it then. Good luck, Mr. Nick. Good. Now that my mind is at ease, I'd better get ready. Just tidy up the evidence and take out what I don't need. Time to end this nightmare that started 7 years ago. Defense, prosecution, and judge. There are even people in the gallery. The roof has been completely blown off and the walls have collapsed. But today, this ruin is my battleground. Court, or some facsimile thereof, is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes. Not a facsimile, old man. This is a proper official trial. Take this more seriously or you'll start hearing the bones of the hostages snap. Please try not to upset Miss Blackwell. I'm begging you. Court is now in session for the very serious and very proper trial of Athena Sykes. This is no trial. It's nothing more than a ridiculous farce. What did you say? Edgeworth, did you not hear what I just said to his honor? However, this ridiculous farce has a very important meaning for our legal system. Recall the case of the UR1 incident, in which a prosecutor was found guilty of murder. That case ushered in the odious dark age of the law. I see what you're after. We can find the real truth behind that case today. Precisely. The darkness will be dispelled and glory shall be restored to the court system. Prosecutor Edgeworth, you sound as if you know something of this truth. I do indeed. A new suspect has emerged in the UR1 case. For 7 years, Simon Blackwell has refused to speak in order to cover for someone else. Brace yourself, Phoenix. Here it comes. I'm sorry, Wright, but the situation is what it is, and I must do what I must. Prosecution moves to indict Athena Sykes on the count of murder in the first degree.
Regardless the circumstance, I intend to question the defendant with all I have. For that is a part of my creed.
Then you better bring it. If the two of you are ready. court is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
The prosecution is also ready.
There's immense tension between us. It's like we're picking up right where we left off. It's my duty to clear Prosecutor Blackwell of false accusations and end this insanity. But I have no intention of losing Miss Sykes either. She's a very promising young lawyer. I know without a doubt that Athena is innocent. But I don't think Prosecutor Blackwell did it either. So, do you have any clue who was responsible for the sabotage? At the very least, I know it wasn't Simon Blackwell. I don't know enough to identify the true culprit, but it's clear what that person is. To put it simply, a spy. The true culprit is a spy. It's going to be hard to convince anyone of that when I barely believe it myself. I don't have a choice if I want to save Athena and Blackwell and expose the spy. Now then, Chief Prosecutor Edgeworth. No need for the Chief Prosecutor bit, Your Honor. I'm here as a simple prosecutor. Very well. Your opening statement, please, Prosecutor Edgeworth. Although I've been known of late to give an impressive opening statement myself. In all the trials I've ever seen, only the prosecution gives an opening statement. Oh, of course, you're right. I was just joking. Just having a little fun. So I wasn't doing them just out of fear. Interesting. Let's start with a brief overview of the UR1 incident. The incident occurred at the Cosmos Space Center 7 years ago on October 7th. Victim, psychologist Metis Sykes, was killed in the robotics lab on the 4th floor. Athena's mother. Simon Blackwell, a young prosecutor at the time, was found guilty of the crime. There were two deciding factors that led to his guilty verdict. One, Blackwell was the only person in the corridor to the lab at the time of the murder. And two, this photo, which captured the moment of the crime. Very incriminating evidence indeed. It would appear that the only conclusion is that Prosecutor Blackwell did indeed. Are you kidding me? I'm not accepting any conclusion of the kind. This opening statement is over. Now, hurry up and call the witness. Excuse me, Miss Blackwell, but we must follow proper procedure for these things, you know. Or perhaps we should heed her wishes, Your Honor. She is the trial's sponsor, after all. Besides, the courtroom is chilly, and sitting for too long can't be good for your back. Oh, you are very kind to show such concern for the welfare of the elderly. Skilled as ever at playing the court puppeteer, I see. Prosecution calls its first witness, a witness who decided to bring forth new testimony after 7 long years. New testimony? And just who is this witness, anyway? Huh. Bobby Fulbright's the name, and justice we trust. What are you doing here? I'm just here to speak for the hostage taker, Miss R. Blackwell. She says she's too busy, what with confining and threatening the hostages and all. It doesn't seem to stop her from constantly chiming in, though, through Klonko. I'm nothing more than an observer in this. Do your best. I'm watching you. Leaving her brother innocent, Miss Blackwell has been conducting her own investigation. And though her current actions are hardly lawful, I think we can at least hear her theory. I have here Miss Blackwell's notes on the investigation she conducted. And I'll be giving testimony based on these notes. Here I go. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone. Someone else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, that's why. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes. And that's Ms. Blackwell's theory. It totally goes in the face of the official ruling, huh? About the case she mentions, there were other rolling cases like that one in the lab. But they're not for traveling. They're apparently for moving parts and equipment. I vaguely remember seeing 3 cases, all different sizes. The last trial, they thought that Prosecutor Blackwell used this case to steal the rock. And they had perfectly good reason to think that, too. See, there's a security camera in the corridor that leads to the robotics lab. And that camera captured the footage of Black Quill leaving the scene with the case. You can see why that footage helped to bring his trial to a quick end. It's very convincing, that's for sure. That case, by the way, was later discovered outside on the Space Center grounds. Speaking of after the incident, where was the defendant Athena Sykes found? She was found on the 5th floor of the Space Center in the Sykes family residence. Prosecutor Blackwell most likely brought her there after the incident. In addition, it's unknown where Miss Sykes was at the estimated time of death. Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock of her mother's death to give proper testimony, and there was no witness or evidence to tell us where she might have been. So what you're saying is Miss Sykes didn't have an alibi. That is what the evidence is saying, yes. I understand the reasoning behind the theory, but I'm far from convinced. The victim is the accused mother. Are you actually claiming an 11-year-old girl? Of course, the girl had a very strong motive. Dr. Sykes was a psychologist who wrote many papers about speech and emotions. You're aware of Athena Sykes' special ability, aren't you, Your Honor? Are you referring to that therapy thing? Yes, she's done it quite a few times in court. The ability to read emotions from speech and the subject of her mother's research. Well, as long as it benefits society, I don't see any particular problem researching it. I don't like where this is heading. Not one bit. Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments. Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you seriously suggesting? I've done my best to be delicate, but even you can't deny it to be true, Mr. Wright. No longer able to withstand the anguish of these experiments, Miss Sykes felt her only choice was to kill her own mother. Order in the court. What a tragic story. I hardly want to believe it myself. We must proceed. Mr. Wright, if you could. Detective Fulbright, please refer to the notes. I was going to say, how's he going to cross-examine if I mention something that isn't in the statement?
Hold it!
So Prosecutor Blackwell willingly accepted a death sentence to protect someone else? Yes, that is precisely what Miss Blackwell appears to believe. And that is what I believe as well. Prosecutor Blackwell is no murderer, Mr. Wright. Athena Sykes certainly didn't kill anyone either, Mr. Edgeworth. So it appears neither of us can afford to go easy on the other. Fine, I expected no less. I remember this tense atmosphere. It's so invigorating. I'm only reading notes here, but yeah, I feel extra invigorated too, so let's keep going. Who else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder?
Hold it!
But that's just speculation. No, Miss Blackwell has proper grounds for her claims.
Objection!
Why didn't you say so in the first place? You're the one who screamed, "Hold it!" And cut me off. Fine, so maybe I jumped the gun by a teeny weeny bit. Now I know what they mean when they say close enough to argue. Moving on.
Hold it!
This rolling case, I suppose you mean the one that existed in the photo with Prosecutor Blackwell in it. But was absent when the crime scene photos were taken. Yes, that's the one, and Miss Blackwell has drawn a conclusion from these two photos. She has? And what is that conclusion? You're the one with her notes. Oh, right. Of course. Reading them now, so why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, that's why. And how do you propose he hid a person inside one of those cases? Have you forgotten that we saw just a thing on the other day? It's your own daughter's magic show. She fit a grown person into a small box. Oh yeah. Well, you ruined the memory of a good day. A magic show? Wish you would have thought to invite me. Actually, I would have liked to go too. My apologies. I'll invite you both next time. I promise. So, wait a minute. What were we talking about again? Prosecutor Blackwell is using the case to hide someone. The only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes. That's nothing more than conjecture, and it's hardly the only possibility. In that case, what do you think Prosecutor Blackwell had in that case? I think it was the moon rock.
Objection!
There were 3 cases at the scene. Prosecutor Blackwell used the largest one. The moon rock was egg-shaped and only about 8 inches in diameter. Wouldn't have made any sense to use the largest case there just to move that rock.
Objection!
Be that as it may, it doesn't prove Miss Sykes was inside. Let me ask you this. Can you come up with a better theory of what was in the case? Well, Mr. Wright, can you? Yikes. Give you guys some time to think. Let's see. To try to bluff my way through what could have been in that case. So here's the thing, if he didn't use the case to steal the rock, how was it stolen? Exactly what Prosecutor Blackwell carried from the scene. I just had to find something else that was missing, right? No sweat. Very interested in hearing your theory. If it's true, that is. It's a crime scene photo taken after Prosecutor Blackwell left, correct? All we have to do is compare this with this photo of Prosecutor Blackwell to see what's missing. Oh, you know, there is something missing. It should be in one of these photos. You know, now that I look at it, notice there's a robot part on top of the cart in this photo. However, in this photo taken after the crime, the robot part is gone. In other words, this part is something that was taken from the scene of the crime. You do appear to be right. I don't see it in the second picture. But it's just a piece of junk. How important could it be? Is it really just an insignificant robot part? Speaking of which, what are you looking at? I'm gonna start charging for each glance per eyeball. Stingy, stingy. What happened to the age of free previews? Your Honor, about this robot part. Doesn't it look like it could be an arm from that robot there? Well, now that you mention it, it does, doesn't it? The case is still too big to be practical with just the moon rock and a robot arm. But was it really just the one arm that was in there? If it wasn't Athena in the case, then maybe there was another robot at the scene that looks just like the one here. Your Honor, is the defense's assertion that it was this other robot that was in the case.
Objection!
We can't be certain that part belonged to a robot. Yes, it looks like the arm of the one before us, but it could be something else entirely. Besides, it's wrapped entirely in bandaging, making it difficult to verify what it is.
Objection!
Yeah, but I think we have a photo that actually matches with it. Yeah, it's a robot arm. I can even tell which robot it belonged to, just by looking at it. With this information, we can investigate whether it was there at the time or not. Mr. Wright, I thought you were more of the technologically illiterate type. When did you become such an expert? I feel somehow abandoned. Not to worry, Your Honor. I still know next to nothing about machines. But I know this piece of evidence proves which robot the arm belonged to. Right there.
Take that!
The robot in this picture is named Ponko. But take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that. She must have thought that machines heal in the same way that people do. An adorable, naive mistake. Reminds me of my own grandchild. The robot arm at the crime scene had the same bandaging wrapped around it. In other words, this robot arm could belong to none other than Ponko. Order in the court. Order, I say. Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you have to say to this? Concede that the robot is about the same size as a child. But it cannot grab its knees and curl itself up into a ball. Even if it was the largest of the cases, the robot couldn't have possibly fit in there. The case does come up to about mid-thigh on Prosecutor Blackwell. I see your point. Yeah, but if it was dismantled... Got me there. So then, does Prosecutor Blackwell make Ponko by dismantling it? I mean, the arm was already dismantled, just had to take apart the rest of the pieces. Yeah, a robot assembly device. It sounds rather violent, but Mr. Wright does have a point there.
Objection!
Except that there was a body on the table where robots were dismantled and assembled. There would have been no room to take the robot apart.
Objection!
But what if it wasn't done on the table? What if the katana was used instead? Ooh, that's a point. Ms. Blackwell, I like your opinion as a woman of science. Is it true that katana could have been used to take the robot apart? I suppose so. Their joints aren't made of a very tough material. A blade could slice through them. Thank you for your expert opinion, Miss Blackwell. Thanks to you, we now know that the existence of the severed arm in this photo proves that Ponko was taken apart. In addition, since the rest of Ponko was not found at the scene, we can conclude that the true meaning of this photo is very different from the original interpretation. You can't mean... That's exactly what I mean. This photo does not capture the moment of the murder. It's instead a picture of the moment after the robot was sliced apart. The blood you see where the arm was cut off was transferred there by the bloody katana. Huh. Oh yeah. It's like the rest of Ponko is scattered around Prosecutor Blackwell's feet. Not hearing this. Therefore, what was transported inside that case was not the defendant, but a robot. Miss Sykes was never at the scene at the time of the murder. My head! My head! My body! Where am I? Yeah. Order in the court. It's true that Ponko was found in pieces after the murder, and I'll admit I repaired her myself afterwards. I'm finally making some progress. Hopefully I've gotten at least one step closer to proving both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell innocent.
Objection!
Well played, Mr. Wright. You've made your point abundantly clear. I concede that it wasn't the defendant inside the rolling case, but the robot. Alright, what's going on here? It's never good when he plays things this straight. Does the prosecution withdraw its claim the defendant was carried from the scene? No, Your Honor, my claim hasn't changed.
Objection!
Ponko and Ms. Sykes couldn't both have been inside that case.
Objection!
The notion that the case was used to carry Miss Sykes was Ms. Blackwell's theory. I have been of a different opinion from the outset. Now I finally have the opportunity to voice my theory. Classic Edgeworth. Thanks to the defense. It's been one step ahead of me this whole time. How do you propose the defendant left the crime scene? Simple. Footage only shows Prosecutor Blackwell from behind. What's more, he's holding his arm in front of his body as if he were holding something or someone. That's hardly evidence. I have proof. The surcoat Prosecutor Blackwell was wearing. The victim's blood was found on the front of it, and the stain had a highly distinctive shape. Bloodstain with a distinctive shape? Please continue, Prosecutor Edgeworth. 7 years ago, the defendant was known to constantly wear a certain item. of which there is only one in the world, a special pair of headphones made just for her. She always wore these big, heavy-looking headphones. She said her mother made them for her as part of her research. Analysis showed the blood stain to be in the exact same shape as these headphones. In other words, this was no mere blood splatter. The blood went from the victim's body to the headphones and then was imprinted onto Prosecutor Blackwell's coat like a stamp. Most gruesome stamp indeed. Blackwell carried Miss Sykes, who had been hit by splatter, away from the crime scene. This proves that the Athena Sykes was without question present at the crime scene. And that concludes the prosecution's argument. Order. If the defendant was indeed at the scene, it deepens the suspicion against her.
Objection!
But we've also shown that the robot was there at the scene as well.
Objection!
I hope you're not making a ridiculous claim that a simple robot was the real murderer. I don't really think that, no, but you can't say the possibility isn't there. Detective Fulbright, was the robot questioned at the time? No, I don't see any record of it. I believe it was considered unrelated to the case. But, as it turned out, the robot was actually integrally related. Your Honor, the defense would like to call Ponko to the stand. A robot witness? Yeah, I mean, we've questioned parrots, some other weird things. Sure, why not a robot? Mr. Wright has called all manner of witnesses to the stand over the years, so why not a robot? Nothing surprises me anymore with him. Very well, I will allow the witness. Bailiff, please summon the robot named Ponko. Witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is not Witness, my name is Ponko. Yes, I realize that, but when you are at the witness stand, you are the witness. No, I'm not. I'm Ponko. Say it with me. Ponko. What an utterly inflexible little robot. I was waiting for that pose. You're the last person who should be calling anybody inflexible. Also, continuing the tradition of Edgeworth having trouble getting witnesses to say their names. You reminded me of my grandchild who just learned his own name. Oh, how precious. Alright, Ponko. I'm going to ask you some questions. Questions? You have questions? Hooray! What are your questions? I want to know if you were there at the scene of the murder of Meta Sykes. It was 7 years ago on the 7th of October around 2 p.m. in the robotics lab. Certainly. Just one moment. Searching data. Search complete. Yes, I was there in the robotics lab. Well, this should be interesting. It would seem this robot's testimony is necessary to this case after all. This is great. I just knew Ponko must have seen something important. A murder committed right before this poor little girl's eyes. It's inexcusable. The judge seems ready to adopt Ponko as another grandchild. So, little Ponko, do you think you can give us your testimony today? Oh boy. The robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. After I charged up, I was cleaning the room and Mr. Simon came in. And then an error occurred. There's no data after that point. Well, that's not good. Sounds like the defendant was, without question, at the scene. However, it doesn't appear the witness saw the actual moment of the murder. I disagree. This testimony shows that the defendant did indeed commit the crime. At the end of the day, we mustn't forget that this witness is still a machine. Being a robot, its understanding and capacity to express itself are limited. So, what are you suggesting? Witnesses' statements need to be interpreted. For example, the terms hugged and then later fell down. Adults don't usually fall down after being hugged by a child. They don't, but yes, what this witness' statements are telling us is the defendant stabbed the victim with the murder weapon during this moment. What? I mean, that's an interpretation. There are possibly other interpretations. Or Miss Sykes hugged Mr. Sykes, did the two of them converse? Yes, they did. They spoke to each other very loudly, but I don't know what they said. Athena's usually so quiet, so I was surprised. Spoke very loudly. We can interpret this to mean they argued. I see. Murder after a heated argument. And then the victim fell down. I agree that it does sound like a reasonable interpretation. However, Punko doesn't seem to remember anything that happened after that. When I'm recharging, I go into sleep mode. But I remember everything before that. I have a very good memory. I may as well admit defeat now, right? A cross-examination would be useless. Don't be ridiculous. A cross-examination is never useless. Until now. Think about it. Robots don't lie. This robot is both an important witness and valuable evidence at the same time. Nevertheless, I will have my cross-examination. I see you haven't changed. You never were one to worry about wasting time. Very well, even if it may be a waste of time, you may proceed, Mr. Thanks, Judge.
Hold it!
Regular recharge, what is that exactly? I have to refill my battery's power or else I stop working. I go to the lab to do that. So that recharge occurred around 2 p.m., around the time of the murder. That's right. I go every day at 2 p.m. Okay. So I was about to charge up. Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis.
Hold it!
Hugged her, huh? Sedgeworth took to me and stabbed her with a weapon. You said the two of them were talking before Miss Sykes hugged her mother, is that right? Yes, they were talking very loudly, but I couldn't tell what they were saying. Couldn't tell, even though they were speaking so loudly? I'm only allowed to listen to voices that are directed at me. If it listened to every voice, it would be a little better than a mobile eavesdropper. Well, that explains why some of Ponko's testimony is so vague. It's a shame that our little friend wasn't listening in, however. We could have learned what they were talking about just before Dr. Sykes was killed. Now then, what happened after that? I was recharging, so I don't know anything.
Hold it!
I don't want to delve too deeply here, but could you tell us how the victim appeared and acted at this moment? Metis was very surprised when she was hugged. I heard her heart pound. Her heart? Mr. Wright, have you forgotten about this document we found in the robotics lab? These robots have a heartbeat detection system. Now that he mentions it, I do remember reading something like that there. Right, they detect the presence of people by the sound of their heartbeats. With facial features whose face has been registered, human with their heartbeat detection system. Recognizes people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform jacket ID tag. But wait a minute. That means if Dr. Sykes really did die at this moment. Ponko, how was Dr. Sykes after she fell down? Could you still hear the sound of her heartbeat? Let's see. The moment she fell, her heart was pounding. After that, I don't know. I started recharging just then. All the unlucky timing. If you had heard anything after that, it could have possibly proved that the hug wasn't actually the moment of the murder. I'm very sorry. I'm afraid I don't know. I'm very sorry. The robot is designed to go into sleep mode automatically, so it can't be helped. But it does appear it detected an increased heart rate at the moment of the stabbing. Yeah. Mom Metis' heart started pounding in surprise. She fell by the window. It's the round window on the workbench side. Mommy's sister, she fell by the window. It's the round window on the workbench side of the room. Window on the workbench side. So that window? That's not where we found her in the... That's not here though. Like that's closer to where Blackwell is standing. And where the sword is. Ponko must be talking about that table to the right of where the giant robot is now. So she actually It was over there at the time. Is there something critical in Ponko's statement just now? Your Honor, I believe this statement is critical. I'd like to add it to her testimony. Could you please add that statement to your testimony? That's a good little girl. Around the window on the workbench side of the room. I charged up, I was cleaning the room, and Mr. Simon came.
Hold it!
Prosecutor Blackquill. I wonder what he went there for. Subjective? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I can't very well ask Ponko to speculate. So what happened after Prosecutor Blackquill arrived?
Hold it!
You don't remember what happened next? An error, huh? Wonder if... all data is suddenly cut off at that point. I don't know anything after that. The answer to that question is right here. According to the defense's theory, this photo shows when the robot was being taken apart. Exactly, we can conclude that Ponko's error was the result of her being dismantled. Indeed, bodies of these robots are designed to be controlled remotely by a separate computer. Yes, that's basically what Ms. Blackwell explained to us too. She said their hearts and memories are stored in a separate computer. When the witness was taken apart, she lost the use of her body, but not her memories. That's how she is now still able to give testimony about the events of that day. Fascinating. It's as if she can be seriously wounded, but her soul still burns. There are a few parts of Ponko's testimony that are hard to interpret. I sort of chose to interpret hugged as stabbed, but I'd better try to iron out who did what where and to whom for myself. Hold on, Athena. I'm going to save you. Okay.
Hold it!
Let's see. There are 2 round windows in the robotics lab. Which one did you mean? The one on the right, near the hanging scroll. That hanging scroll was Mommy Metis' prized possession. Okay, in the pictures of the crime scene from 7 years ago, there was definitely a hanging scroll and Japanese theater mask hanging on the workbench side of the wall. But is there some problem with this statement? Well, I mean, the first problem is that that's not where we found her body. So, let's pick this apart. Your statement may have just inspired a breakthrough. This helpful? Hooray! I'm so happy. Just to be sure, let's go over it again, okay? The victim fell near the window on the workbench side of the room. However, her body was discovered on the operating table. But the operating table and the workbench are 2 different locations. Exactly, Your Honor. We've just learned a new crucial fact. What could explain the 2 very different locations of the body? I'll tell you what. I don't think the defendant could have moved the body. So, if the victim wasn't dead yet, then the victim moved. The 8-year-old girl couldn't have moved the heavy body of an adult, so the only explanation is the victim walked to the operating table herself. In other words, what Ponko observed near the workbench couldn't possibly have been the moment of the murder. I'm very relieved to hear that. Glad to know that the murder wasn't committed in front of little Ponko. Yes, as we just heard in the testimony, Miss Sykes hugged her mother and nothing more.
Objection!
Right. It's been 8 years, but you're still just as green as ever. Green? I can't recall ever seeing Mr. Bright in anything but a blue suit. Hey, blue's my favorite color. What can I say? The defendant couldn't move the body herself. She could have had it moved for her. Miss Sykes and Dr. Sykes were the only ones there. I agree. Since this robot is equipped with a heartbeat detection system, it would have been aware of another person's presence if someone else had been there. We can therefore conclude the defendant and the victim were the only ones present. Then who do you suggest moved the body? Don't you know it's in the nature of a robot to help people do things? Miss Ponko, that's not how you spell that name. Allow me to ask you a question. Is Ponko, say it with me, Ponko. I believe you said you were cleaning after Dr. Sykes fell down. Did you happen to move something large on the operating table? Yes, I did. Athena asked me to. Oh. Athena asked you to. And what did you move, little Ponko? I don't know. Unless something has an ID tag, I can't tell what it is. An ID tag, you say? Yes, a tag. Stand and tell us what a thing is. Yeah, but can also recognize a person by facial features once the face has been registered. That paper in the lab did mention something about that. So it should have still recognized the doctor by her facial features. So it would appear that Miss Ponko here can't identify what it moved. Miss Ponko! We humans have the power to imagine what it was, do we not? You? Well, I do at the very least. Miss Panko, on the defendant's command, moved the body on the operating table. I don't think that's the case, because the facial recognition is gonna get us out of this, I think. It's really important. Is there any way you could tell? I don't know. Without an ID tag, I can't tell. Give it up, Wright. If the victim's heart was stopped, the robot's detection system would be useless. Furthermore, Dr. Sykes usually wore her white coat while she was working. She kept the jacket with her ID tag on it draped over a chair in the robotics lab, and only wore it for special occasions. In other words, the victim wasn't wearing her ID tag at the time. From the robot's point of view, her body was simply just another object.
Objection!
Ponko was equipped with a facial recognition system. If she really did move the victim, she would have recognized the body as Dr. Sykes. But she didn't, so that means
Objection!
the face can easily be covered with a piece of cloth, a mask, or anything else for that matter. Facial features hidden, the robot wouldn't be able to tell it's Dr. Sykes. Yeah, but what would they have used then? Because that means a cloth or of some sort would have had to have been in the room. Summarized, Ms. Sykes stabbed her mother near the workbench, then, using a robot, she moved the body to the table where she removed the sword and stained it blood. If that's the case, then I have a question. Why did the defendant move the body to the operating table in the first place? You want a reason? Very well. What? You can't possibly have an explanation. Your emotions blind you to the truth. You could learn a lot from our robot friends. Calm and rational thought will open your eyes to the truth in front of you, Mr. Wright. Now then, do you remember the operating table's one special feature? I believe I read that robots can be assembled and disassembled there, isn't that right? That's right, and to the defendant, who was just a child at the time, the table was like a magic box that could make robots appear or disappear in seconds. Mom just put her on the operating table and fixed her in a flash. I was so impressed by what my mom did. I even asked her if she would put me on the table and fix me if I ever got hurt. It's just like magic to me what she could do. You can't possibly be suggesting this young sheltered girl had a difficult time distinguishing robots from people. Take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that. She must have thought that machines heal the same way that people do. A little naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild. No way. I refuse to believe it. Miss Sykes made a childish, naive, and cruel mistake. She thought that if a robot could be dismantled and vanish without a trace... Prosecutor Edgeworth, if you're about to claim what I think you are, and demand that you word it as delicately as you can, with all due respect, Your Honor, all I can do is present the truth as it stands. The reason the defendant moved the victim's body to the operating table...
Hold it!
No, don't say another word. Just stop. Was to dismantle the evidence so that she'd get away with her crime. You know, I think there's actually another sad explanation for this. Because if you go the other direction, and she didn't kill her mother, and she was trying to fix her mother, she might have put her on the. She might have had her move the table to see if she could be fixed, which is also really sad. That can't be. Order the court. Edgeworth. She was just a little kid. How can you say such a horrible thing? Horrible? Like I said, you're just as green as ever. I came here today as a prosecutor to seek only the truth, no more, no less. My theory is simply the result of a rational consideration of every... I don't feel like you've considered every possibility.
Objection!
Dismantling the table's only function. It can make repairs as well. It's conceivable Miss Sykes moved her mother to the... Yeah, what I just said. Suppose that could be another way of interpreting it. But dismantle or repair, it doesn't matter either way. What do you mean? Well, after murdering her mother, Miss Sykes may have come to her senses. Perhaps she did want to make it appear as if it had never happened. And that's why she tried to repair her mother. Yes, that's one possible explanation. But we mustn't forget the facts of this case. The victim was observed to fall down after being hugged by the defendant. The body was moved per the defendant's command. These two facts, facts that indicate the defendant's guilt, remain unchanged. Oh boy. Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to refute the prosecution's claim? Evidence, right. Let's see. Can't think of any. I'm afraid I don't have any evidence. Since becoming chief prosecutor, I've learned that the truth isn't always pretty. Now accept the truth, Mr. Wright. Your subordinate murdered her own mother. Your Honor, the prosecution demands a verdict. The hostages have suffered enough. A terrible and tragic conclusion. Oh, there is a cloth. It could have covered her face. I was going to say if the utility knife was missing from the toolkit, that would be another option, but it looks like it's still in there, and it doesn't look like it has blood on it. Defense has no counter-argument. I see no need to further prolong this trial. His argument seems solid enough, but there's no way Athena could have ever done anything like that. What do I do? There has to be something. I can't think of a single thing. I'm gonna save. I feel like this one's Prosecutor Blackwell? This is quite the farce you are conducting here. I could die from laughter. Prosecutor Blackwell? What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is that your argument is based on an entirely false premise. Go on, we're listening. Could this be the miracle I need? But what is Prosecutor Blackwell trying to pull here? 7 years. 7 long years. This case has been on my mind. Not for an instant did I not think of it. I'm the one who killed my mentor, and don't think you can alter that fact now. Your baldness, I will take to the stand, and I won't take no for an answer. Of course, Prosecutor Blackwell. Please, go ahead. Oh, man. I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes. When I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And then I committed the act. How cathartic it was. Flopanko here witnessed the victim falling. In other words...
Objection!
I don't need any of your other words, old man. I can guess what happened. Which would be... She fell means she fell. Merely that. Mother and child fooling around. Perhaps she tripped. Not that it matters. When I entered the lab, there was no trace of Dr. Sykes to be seen. There's no dead body either, of course, meaning she must have left the room. So the murder occurred after the time period Panko described in her testimony? You should hardly take stock in the words of a wind-up toy.
Objection!
Then how do you explain the fact that the defendant had the robot move something? Athena was always tinkering with robots on the operating table to amuse herself. She always had Panko move the heavy ones for her. That day was no different. Panko moved a heavy robot for Athena. This is awful. What he's saying seems to make sense, and yet...
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, are you trying even now to turn away from the truth? Don't you realize we could bring the dark age of the law to a close today?
Objection!
You expect too much from me. I'm just a murderer beyond redemption. Why don't you just let me go so I can settle down into hell? Ugh. Prosecutor Blackwell's execution is tomorrow. If the truth doesn't come out now, it's all over. Are you saying that the little girl and the robot had nothing to do with the murder? That's right, so let's hear your verdict. If we don't hurry, I might miss the ferry across the Styx. Don't you dare, Judge. Don't forget I have hostages over here. And Simon, how long are you going to cover for her? Miss Blackwell. Forgive me, Aura. I never wanted you to do anything like this for me. But you agreed to this trial. If you have a counter-argument, then present your evidence. That's the rule of the courtroom. Isn't that right, Chief Prosecutor? Blackwell, you selfish... Well, to be frank, I don't like this, but it's my duty to make a decision. If no one has a counter-argument, I will announce my Hey, don't I get to cross-examine? What's really happening? Is it really going to end just like it did 7 years ago? I wanted to do it so bad. Even now, I want to fly out of here and go save him. I can't tell her. How can I lie to Athena? I can't prove Prosecutor Blackwell's innocence in this trial. I don't think Athena will ever forgive me. I can't let this happen. But I just don't have the evidence to counter Prosecutor Blackwell's... It's funny that he doesn't have the evidence to counter Edgeworth's theory or Blackwell's testimony. Like, we're basically working with scraps here. Athena, what are you... You feeling okay? I can hear it. I can hear the voice of his heart. He's hiding something. If he really is, I could sure use Athena's help here. The power might be just the thing to get us through this.
Objection!
Sykes don't know. No need for you to chime in here. Just accept that you're innocent.
Objection!
Wow. These past 7 years, they've been just as hard on me, you know. What are you talking about? You remember? That horrible, horrible trial. Please, you have to listen to me. He didn't kill her. His heart is screaming that he didn't kill her. Even now, every time I stand in the courtroom, it comes back to haunt me. Not being heard, no matter how hard you try. Feeling so helpless. Caught in people's stares, so scared that it feels like your chest is in a vice. I'm terrified of courtrooms. I want to run out of that door even now. And yet, you found a way to keep your fears at bay and became a lawyer. Thanks. That's because one day, I came to realize that I had to fight. I couldn't give up. I exercised hard and I studied hard. I wanted to become the strongest lawyer I could be. This day has finally come. A day I've been looking forward to with all my heart. This is why I became a lawyer. This is why I studied psychology. It was all to save you from this false conviction. But, Miss Sykes, do you realize what it would mean? You're the accused, after all. If you prove Prosecutor Blackwell innocent, then the only thing that matters is the truth. It's my duty to find out what that truth is. Simon, please give me this chance. A chance to shake off this fear that's been with me for 7 years and face the truth. Just being so brave, confronting her past like this might really be the last chance to save them both. Yeah, this is pretty wild. I don't think we've ever had one where, like, the two people involved are also the potential guilty parties, and they're both like, nah. They're not trying to save their own skin. They're like actually trying to. Oh man. Prosecutor Blackwell, please testify one more time about the incident 7 years ago. Fine, but your efforts will surely be in vain, for I'm not a man who can be cut down easily. Here we go, Simon. You hear the voice of your heart. Oh. No intention of killing Dr. Sykes. When I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. Not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. Then I committed the act. Ah, how cathartic it was. Okay, so he started off... Here's the thing, he started off angry. I mean, whatever was... I mean, that matches up with the statement. I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. Which apparently made him happy? Wait, hold on a second. Okay, here doesn't decrease. Be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And then I committed the act. Oh, how cathartic it was. Well, why does he stop being angry before she even... Like, Why would he stop being angry before she even comes back? Like... Huh. Review your emotions alongside your testimony to find the unexpected emotion. Wait a minute. There really isn't anything strange here. I don't know, but I think maybe we made a mistake, Mr. Wright. I think maybe you're right. Let's take another look. There's an unexpected emotion here somewhere. Oh, that wasn't it. Okay, it's... I mean, I guess if he's really happy about doing this, because... This feeling of happiness. Even though the person you were looking for wasn't there, you felt happy. Why is that? Simple. I was looking for Athena and hadn't found her yet. I grew worried. So when I saw her in the robotics lab, I was happily relieved. Merely that. Why were you worried? To the Space Center to kill Dr. Sykes. The first thing you did was look for her daughter instead? No intention of harming Athena, so I wanted to confirm that she was safe first. The thing I'm trying to remember is because there's also all of the, like, wasn't there also, like, sabotage going on at the time? Like, some other things, weird things that were happening? Just a part of my plan. Nothing contradictory about that. The second I find an inconsistency, he cuts it down. Simon knows the principles of analytical psychology. There's less noise now, but I don't see any instabilities we can latch onto. I was afraid of that. We'll just have to keep chipping away at them, then bit by bit. Did you update his testimony, Athena? Got it, boss. Found Athena in the robotics lab. I was relieved. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. Okay, well that one's clearly different. Well, I highlighted the wrong thing. Okay, I know, I highlighted the wrong thing. There we go. That's new. Even you can falsify your emotions, Prosecutor Blackwell. What? You said that you killed Dr. Sykes in your testimony. You felt sadness. Would someone who had lain in wait to kill her be sad at her death? Such an obvious attack. Yes, I felt sadness, but it wasn't for her. I felt sorrow for Athena and her circumstances. Gah, he can't be talking about that, can he? It was just a convenient subject for her research. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments. The objective was to save Athena from an obsessive scientist who treated her own daughter like a research subject. What? Went to the psychology lab first. That's where I would usually find Athena playing. That day was different. I heard someone crying in the robotics lab next door. Was Athena being subjected to yet another experiment, I thought, as I went to see. Conveniently, Athena had cried herself to sleep, so all I had to do was wait and kill. That's why I was relieved when he saw Athena. Is this story really true? I'm not sure how much to believe. Mr. Wright, how are you doing, Athena? Still hanging in there? I'm a lot stronger than I look, boss. Take a look at this. The noise level actually increased. I was wondering if we might get something like this. Never seen it do that before. Prosecutor Blackwell is lying somewhere in his testimony. As a matter of fact, he's piling lie on top of lie in an attempt to make his claim sound more believable. He's trying even harder to suppress his true feelings, and that's what's causing the noise. Interesting. How well should I approach this? An evidence-based approach might work if I can find a contradiction. Otherwise, I should look for an inconsistency in his emotions. Oh, so now you've got to figure out, is it an inconsistency in how he's feeling or an inconsistency in what he's saying? Interesting. Flaws in my testimony, his baldness is prepared to give his verdict. Give up on this lost cause and let the law free me of these chains already.
Objection!
I don't think so. Not while I'm around. Now, contradictory testimony or inconsistent emotions, which should I tackle first? I guess we can go for the testimony first? Present some evidence here. Got it, boss. If you want to go back to looking for inconsistent emotions, just let me know. I can easily switch back. Okay. Crime for next door. Of course I was worried. Hurry over and open the door to the robotics lab. Before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. She used to hand Athena over, so I had no choice to kill my mentor. Right from next door. Of course I was worried. Open the door to the robotics lab. Out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. So I had no choice but to kill my mentor. Huh. Is there a... This is after the moment, because this is when the robot's already been sliced up. Problem is we don't have a lot of good evidence of the actual moment, because it seems like this one is fairly well after it, and this one doesn't give us any indication of what happened leading up to it. Better look for inconsistent emotions now. Cover it up. Okay, these both make sense. And open the door to the robotics lab. There, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. He was handed Athena over, so I had no choice but to kill the mentor. Huh. I mean, this all kind of fit. Although, this one seems a little bit much. I'm gonna try this one. What? Why would you register surprise at opening the door to the lab? Alright, fine, I'll explain if I must. What surprised me was, Honko, that toy figure attacked me. Huh. Dr. Sykes knew full well of my plan to rescue Athena. She couldn't stand guard over her daughter 24 hours a day. So Dr. Sykes had Ponko do it? That's right, she ordered Ponko to forcibly remove me on sight. So I slashed Ponko with... Ah, here's where the evidence comes in. The rickety old puppet wasn't worthy of that fine blade. Mr. Wright, it's happening again. There's even more noise now. It's at 100% now. What's going on here? Whenever we find an opening, he covers it up with lies. We'll never get rid of the noise at this rate. It's pretty hard to keep telling coherent lies like that. His mind and will really are as sharp and strong as a katana. Alright, okay, so now we tackle his testimony, because there's a contradiction here. Feeling a dread, I opened the robotics lab door just then. Monko attacked me, I retaliated by cutting it in pieces. Before I could lead Athena out of there, cursed my life. Okay, yeah. Now the order of events is wrong, because this contradicts the photo that shows it being a blood stain on the end of the robot's arm.
Objection!
Okay. Huh. Compounding lies with more lies is never the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. Take a look at this photo. It's the photo of the supposed moment of the murder, isn't it? How many more times must I see that which damned me for my sin? The ironic thing is, I think this picture is actually going to be your savior now. The bloodstain at the end of Ponko's arm where it was severed with a katana? I hope you aren't claiming it's the robot's blood, Mr. Wright. No, most likely the blood was transferred there from the bloody katana. The katana already had blood on it? So then it must have been the victim's blood. That's right, but if that's the case, we found a glaring inconsistency. You said in your testimony that you cut up Ponko and then you killed Dr. Sykes, but in spite of that, the victim's blood is already on Ponko's arm in this picture. But that couldn't be. Exactly. In order for the blood to have transferred from the sword to Ponko's arm, the victim must have been stabbed first before the robot was slashed. In other words, Prosecutor Blackwell, your entire testimony is nothing but one giant ball of lies. Tell the court the truth, Prosecutor Blackwell, now. You have no idea what you're doing. His voice, there's so much discord. I'm hearing not just one or two, but a bunch of rampaging emotions here. It's hard to describe. It's like a violent whirlpool or something. Phoenix Wright, you will pay for this. Never have I been forced to reveal so much. The rest I'll take to my grave. Prosecutor Blackwell, you are on the witness stand. You are obligated to tell the truth. Isn't that the rule of the courtroom? All these complex emotions, they seem to be flowing from one source. I think whatever he really saw that day is what's causing these feelings. Holy crap! It's like crying. I opened the lab door and then saw that terrible scene. Wait, terrible scene? Is it Honko? Is it Athena? The only thing I can think of is something bad is happening to Athena at this moment. You opened the door and saw Athena, you became overwhelmed by your emotions. Isn't that right, prosecutor? You should know better. And though it's pathetic, I admit I'm terrified to speak of it. Prosecutor Blackwell, Miss Sykes is innocent. I will always believe that with all my heart. Now, can't you find it within yourself to believe in me, too? Athena is innocent, huh? Can you honestly say you believe that to be true? Right, Dono? I give you my word. Now tell me what you really saw when you opened that door. Curse you, Phoenix Wright. Oh, man. What did he actually see? Oh, are we gonna get a cutscene for this? It was a tragedy. One I'll never forget. When I arrived at the lab, Dr. Sykes was already dead. She was lying on the operating table, while the bloody katana lay on the floor, and standing between the two, covered in blood, was Athena. Oh boy! She smiled with a far-off look in her eyes as she sweetly said, "Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her." That's what I saw, and now you have it, the truth that you so desperately wanted. No, Prosecutor Blackwell finally tells the truth. This is what it is? It's beyond devastating. I tried to take my mother apart? Oh boy. So it was me. I'm the one who killed my mother. Athena! As I said, right. Truth isn't always pretty. Murder, disassembly on an operating table, a scientist using your daughter as a guinea pig. Sadly, it appears that my theory was correct after all.
Objection!
It's true that Athena didn't like her mother's research, but dare cast aspersions on my mentor by claiming Athena was used in such a manner? Dr. Sykes could be awkward with people. She loved her daughter with all her heart. She loved me? Your mother hated to see you suffer because you could hear the voices of people's hearts. She wanted to set you free of your pain, so she worked tirelessly on her research. Do you remember those headphones you hated so much? Yes, my head hurt every time I wore them. No, Athena. It's just the opposite. They emitted sound waves to nullify emotional input from the voices of people around you. Their power is much stronger then than it is now. Those headphones were what enabled you to carry on with everyday life. No, that can't be true. Then why? Why would I have done something like that to somebody who loved me so much? Her love for you was real, that I can guarantee. That's why I knew that what had happened had to be some kind of mistake. I couldn't let you be punished for it. So you took the blame yourself. You and your mentor are more alike than you know. Ponko was a witness, so I put it in the case, held Athena close, and vacated the lab. I threw Ponko away in the boarding lounge trash chute. I hid the case on the Space Center grounds. It would seem that we now have all of the facts of this case.
Hold it!
No, not yet. It can't end like this.
Objection!
Do not disgrace yourself, Mr. Wright. The truth has been revealed. Or are you the type of man to turn your back to things that disagree with you? I'm not... But this... I can't give up now. I have to say something. Anything, even if it's a bluff. I've always managed to pull through that way in the past. I have to make it work. I'm gonna save again. Oh boy. The defense is prepared to present evidence. Mr. Wright. Yes, Athena? It's okay. You can stop now. I don't want you or anyone else to suffer any longer for my sake. Athena, what are you saying? I killed my mother. That's the truth. It's just like Prosecutor Edgeworth said. We have to face it, no matter how much it hurts. I admit my guilt. Could I please be granted just one chance to tell everyone what I recall? Appears Miss Sykes is much braver than you, Mr. Wright. What say you, Your Honor? In light of her courage, will the court give Miss Sykes this opportunity to confess? Very well. Then, if you would, please take the stand, Miss Sykes. Thank you for letting me do this, Prosecutor Edgeworth. And thank you, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Blackwell, for letting the truth be known. Now we can finally move forward, and everyone's suffering can come to an end. Athena. Prosecutor Blackwell will be cleared, and the dark age of the law can come to an end. Yes, admit your guilt, and bring everything to its conclusion. I killed my mother. My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. Your Honor, please find me guilty. I dare say, these are all memories that no one but the murderer would have. I see. Thank you for your confession. I believe this trial has gone on long enough. But before we conclude, does anyone have a counter-argument?
Objection!
I do, Your Honor. Mr. Wright. But, Mr. Wright, why? I killed her. I remember it now. The counter-argument now is pointless.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten one of the basic tenets of lawyering. Always believe in the client to the bitter end. Athena, you are not a murderer.
Objection!
I said that you'd never change, but could you have actually regressed in these 8 years? I won't stand for your childish emotionalism getting in the way of the truth. Emotionalism? Don't lecture me on matters of the heart, Edgeworth. Because I can see straight into a person's soul. Oh, wow! I don't think this has ever happened in a trial before. That's true. The Cyclops. She's not trying to keep anything from you on purpose. Interesting. Still a chance, somewhere deep in Athena's heart. There might still be a memory that not even she knows about yet. Might be like looking for a grain of sand somewhere in the cosmos, but still. The memory might contain a new fact that could prove her innocence. I hope for everyone's sake that you are not just bluffing, Mr. Wright. Now then, is there not a problem with Miss Sykes' confession? It's still a little hazy. There's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. I remember the warmth of her blood that flowed down the sandal on my fingers. There's definitely something wrong with her memory of the event. I can just tell. If there is a problem with her confession, please prove it to this court now. Wait, the victim's blood was found only on the blade. Then what was the blood all over Athena? Huh. I think it's the katana, but hold on a second. I mean, There's also a blood stain on the end of the robot's arm, but... this wouldn't be a... okay, I think it's gotta be the katana.
Take that!
That the katana the defendant used to kill the... oh! If she was holding the blade, or if she was holding the hilt, then the blood couldn't have gotten on her without getting on the hilt as well. So even if they cleaned her, even if Simon had cleaned her up, there should have still been blood on the hilt, if this is how she remembers it. Katana defendant used to kill the victim, Mr. Wright. I respectfully and vehemently disagree, Your Honor. But I remember it. I remember holding the weapon and getting blood on my fingers. That's exactly my point. Blood really did get on your fingers while you were holding it. There should be blood on the handle. But please focus on the handle of the sword. There's not a trace of blood on it. And therefore, this is clearly a contradiction of the facts. You're right. Oh my.
Objection!
Defendant must have simply confused a portion of her memories. She mentioned it was hazy to begin with, and we can't mull over every minor detail.
Objection!
But she also said, there's no question I remember it, a fact we can't ignore. In that case, why don't you explain what this contradiction with her memories means? Gladly. Just give me a sec to think of something. I want to say that Athena didn't stab anyone, but she said it herself that she remembers the feeling of committing the act. Think, Phoenix, think. What could the contradiction with Athena's memories mean? There'd be no point of wiping the blood off just the handle and leaving it on the rest of the blade. It must have been a different weapon, because she doesn't specifically remember the sword. The handle with the katana's handle is spotless, so doesn't it follow that the defendant must have used a weapon other than the katana? What are you up to this time? This is it. This time I found just the thing to end Athena's nightmare for good. Nothing that took Dr. Sai's life was the katana, that much is for sure. So if I can show a possibility that Athena didn't use the katana, it could help me prove her innocent. A different weapon, you say? What weapon would that be exactly? Right, of course you would ask that. I can see you're floundering, Mr. Wright. You speak without thinking again, as always. How does he do that? I can't back down. Not here, not now. This is Phoenix Wright's best ability, is flying by the seat of his pants. That's right, I did, because it's so obvious it doesn't require any thought. What did you say? Okay, so maybe that was an exaggeration. There has to be something. Is there some other bladed weapon in the robotics lab that day? Maybe there's something in one of the crime scene photos. Wait a minute, there is something. There's a high probability that that was in the lab. I don't have that particular weapon here in evidence right now, but I do have a piece of evidence just like it. A piece of evidence just... Other than the katana, this is another blade that may have been at the crime scene. I mean, a utility knife? I was wondering why we've had that still in our possession this whole time.
Take that!
It's the murder weapon in the Clay Terran case. Yes, this is the knife that took Mr. Terran's life. There must have been a knife just like this at the scene 7 years ago as well. Toolkits containing utility knives like this one are issued to Space Center employees. A robotics lab especially would naturally have one of these around.
Objection!
But besides the katana, no other bladed weapon was found at the site. It was in the investigation report, if you didn't know.
Objection!
Of course I knew that. what you told me just now. And here's something else you already knew. There was a toolkit at the scene, but it didn't contain any blades. Here's a photo of its contents. Oh, I thought that was a blade in it. Is that not a blade on the bottom? Oh! See, I thought, from the way it looked, I thought there was a, like, the screwdriver here was a knife, and then there was, like, a partition to separate the knife from, like, the utility knife from, like, the non-bladed implements. But isn't there something odd about the design of these handles? Therefore, there was no other bladed weapon in the room. I disagree. This toolkit contained a knife. What proof do you have of that? Don't tell me your eye for art is failing you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You're the last person in the world who should be criticizing my aesthetic sense. Now, he's simply watching out for your ocular health. Please proceed, Mr. Wright. The handles of each of these tools have a sort of design on them. I see that they do, but what significance does that have? It's clear that one of the tools is missing from this kit. If we rearrange the tools into a specific pattern, we might be able to tell which part of the overall design is missing. Is that the theory your pitiful sense of aesthetics helped you come up with? Edgeworth, just let it go, man. Show the court then if you would. What pattern or design would we see if we rearranged the tools? I mean, is there anything else that has that? I guess you can do either one of these.
Take that!
What design is this supposed to be? Represent GAXA logo, Your Honor. It's on all of the Space Center's documents and pamphlets. As you're aware, GAXA is the program that operates the Cosmos Space Center. Brightly red logo shines in the sunlight above the entranceway. They dig the stars and rocket motif it's got going. GAXA, huh? It's the new name of the Federal Space R&D program. I think I see it now, but... yes, with just the tools shown in this photo, the red A part of the logo is missing. And this is where the murder weapon from the Terran case comes into play. Place the utility knife in the open slot. Complete the GAXA logo. So it would. Then that means... admit it, Mr. Edgeworth. My aesthetic sense is keener than yours. And while you're at it, admit that the weapon Miss Sykes used could have been this one. Yeah. What does this mean? Sykes confessed to having a memory of stabbing the victim. Admittedly, Miss Sykes most likely did stab someone using a utility knife. However, the weapon used to kill Dr. Sykes was the katana. Therefore, the act of stabbing that Miss Sykes remembers couldn't be that of Dr. Sykes. Very well. Let's suppose for a minute that Miss Sykes did use the utility knife. Tell me, how does that change anything? Come again? What if the katana was only being used as a decoy to conceal the true murder weapon? What if the real weapon that took the victim's life was the utility knife? Ridiculous. Or are you changing the premise of your entire argument? I'm merely offering a hypothetical situation derived from your logic. Miss Sykes could have put blood on the katana to make it look like the murder weapon, and then concealed the knife on her personage until Blackwell carried her away. It does clear up the contradiction between Miss Sykes' memories and the evidence. If, in fact, the murder weapon is a utility knife, then fate has dealt you a cruel hand, for you have just proven the knife's existence to the rest of us with your own logic.
Objection!
The prosecution is attempting to lead the court.
Objection!
You are the one attempting to lead the court, Mr. Wright, by forcing us to forget the facts of this case. It reminds you that there were only 2 people in the lab at the time of the murder, and the defendant herself recalls stabbing someone with her own hands. Did someone... Is it possible that she stabbed someone with a knife while someone else was stabbing her mom? That is not whether the murder weapon was a katana or a utility knife. As long as we know that the victim and the defendant were the only ones there, you cannot escape the fact that it was Athena Sykes who killed her own mother. I don't believe it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Every time I find a contradiction, it vanishes and the suspicion keeps coming back. It's almost as if now you're finally starting to get it. Contradictions keep vanishing because the charge is true. The suspicion keeps coming back to the defendant because that's where it belongs. Phoenix Wright, when will you open your eyes and accept the truth? Yeah. This is Phoenix's second or third breakdown in this trial. Yeah. I don't want to believe it. It can't be true. But what if... Mr. Wright, you fought a good fight. I think you've done all you can do. Is giving up really the only option? Gonna save again. Snap out of it, Phoenix. What's the matter with you? Giving in to doubt. I can't look back. Forward is the only way to go. No, Your Honor, not yet. It isn't over yet. Right. Can't lose sight of what's important. I believe in Athena, and I'll always believe in her. To the very end. Defense lawyer never gives up on his client. I have to pick myself up and stand firm. Make that brain of yours work, Phoenix. If I don't see a way, I'll just have to go back and look for one. Time to rethink this case thoroughly. See the fact that Athena must have stabbed someone with a utility knife. It must have been what Ponko witnessed as Athena's hug. Prosecutor Blackwell didn't see the knife at the scene. It means that someone must have removed it from the lab before he arrived. Taking the utility knife from the lab. I mean, it had to have been someone else. Trusting Athena, I have to conclude it was the third person at the scene. According to Ponko's testimony, Athena and her mother were the only two there. Had this third person managed to escape Ponko's detection? The person must have fooled faces covering... They must have covered their own face. Wait a minute, Ponko has a heartbeat detection system too. To cover their own face, Ponko would have still detected their presence. But she wouldn't have been able to tell who they were. Wait, that's it. The culprit could have their face and posed as which person. So... if they were wearing Metis's jacket and they had their face covered, and Ponko would have assumed it was Dr. Sykes. By wearing their jacket. You and Athena were there to take advantage of Ponko's basic recognition features. Use this one to press the victim by wearing her jacket with the ID tag on it. That still leaves the heartbeat detection system. How'd the culprit get around that? It would have worked if Ponko detected the real Dr. Sykes' heartbeat too. I mean, the real Dr. Sykes was already dead by that time. If that's the case, then Athena stabbed the real culprit. Okay, we're getting somewhere here. Now that Mr. Wright has finally finished thinking, let us bring this to a swift end. Please give us your verdict, Your Honor, so that we can move on to hostage negotiations. You're absolutely right, Prosecutor Edgeworth. I hereby...
Objection!
Here we go. I didn't say I was finished. I was only pausing for a second, as I realized something so shocking I had to take a break to digest it. But now, I know for a fact that Miss Sykes is innocent. Ponko saw me. She witnessed the moment of the crime. Ponko did witness something. She saw the hug. In other words, the moment you used the utility knife. The person you stabbed wasn't your mother. What are you saying, Mr. Wright? The answer is simple. The person Miss Sykes stabbed was a third person posing as Dr. Sykes. Here we go.
Objection!
Do you really expect us to swallow that, Mr. Wright? According to robot statements, there was no third person there. Do you really think I wouldn't see through your ludicrous grab for time?
Objection!
After all we've been through, Mr. Edgeworth, I'm disappointed. Don't you know by now that this smile of mine means I have absolute confidence? Ha! You make that pose all the time, regardless of the facts. Ponko's strange malfunction. Mr. Tarrant, you look pale. Shall I help you to the sick bay? Mr. Tarrant, right. Because he thought it was Apollo, because Apollo was wearing Clay's jacket. In the case of mistaken identity caused by a jacket ID tag. Ponko couldn't read Apollo's facial features due to that eye patch. Mr. Edgeworth said a mask could nullify the robot's facial recognition, and then all this person would have to do is wear a jacket with the victim's ID tag that poses her. Of all the ridiculous theories, what good would a silly disguise like that do? Have you forgotten that the robot also has a heartbeat detection system? If there was a third person at the scene, the robot would have detected them. Sorry, Mr. Edgeworth, but that doesn't count for much, I'm afraid. Because, by that time, Dr. Sykes' heart had already stopped beating. What? So, does that mean... Yes, Your Honor, the person Miss Sykes stabbed, this third person who is posing as Dr. Sykes, is her mother's real killer. That's... impossible! Oh, Miles just gets a mini breakdown. Mask? The person I stabbed was wearing a mask. Order in the court. Miss Sykes, did you say something? A mask? Yes, I remember. Athena, what is it? I remember a man with a mask. How could he? What did he do to my mother? My head. Sykes, are you alright? No. The black Cyclops. They're breaking. Do I get 50% of my health back? It's all coming back to me. Everything that happened the day my mother was murdered. They're gone. The black Cyclops are finally gone. You didn't really stab your mother, did you? It's all right, Athena. Just tell us what you saw that day. I was drawing a picture. When I was done, I went to show it to my mom. I opened the door, and then... It's all right. I'm right here. You're safe, Athena. She was on the floor by the workbench, with the katana sticking out of her. There was a handkerchief over her face, but I knew it was her by her clothes. And there was a man there. A man?
Hold it!
Quiet, Your Honor. Go on, Athena. He tried to attack me. In a panic, I grabbed the knife that was there, and he dodged at first, so I only got his clothes. But I tried again, and this time you got him, didn't you? I did. I remember it clearly now. The knife went into the back of his hand. Then he kicked me, and I passed out. When I came to, my mom wasn't moving. I had to do something. I had to fix her, I thought. So I asked Ponko to move her to the, operating table. Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her. Yeah. So that's why she said that. Your Honor, as you can see, the defendant has just given us critical new testimony. A man was there before Miss Sykes arrived, a man who covered the victim's face and put on the victim's jacket. This man is the real culprit. Miss Sykes, do you have any idea who this man was? No, I'm afraid I don't. A few moments ago, Miss Sykes mentioned a mask. Athena, can you tell us anything else about that? Yes, the mask. It was my mom's Japanese theater mask. I think it was the one hanging on the wall of the lab. Ah, this mask hanging here on the wall. It's kind of spooky, that mask. My mom used to tell me that a no mask even has the power to turn an ordinary human being into a phantom. A phantom? Would seem that a new suspect has emerged, and that means that all suspicion against Miss Sykes is... You see, this is precisely why I can't trust the court system. Athena Sykes is the murderer. I won't accept any other verdict. Miss Blackwell, this is not good. A new suspect? Where's the proof this person ever existed? Who says it wasn't all just a dream in the little princess's groggy little head? She's right. We don't have any... Actually, we do. I was always wondering what this was about, and I think now we might actually know, because that's definitely not a stab in the heart. So if she only slashed at him and got part of the jacket...
Objection!
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll never be able to repay you for all you've done. But I'm fine now, because I can say with certainty that I didn't kill my mother. Athena, I'm so glad for you. More and more memories are coming back now. So I'd like to say one thing if I could. Ponko came to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. to recharge. The robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And Mommy Metis fell down. After that I was recharging, so I don't know anything. I see where you're going with this. If Mommy Metis was really the killer in disguise... Right, then he must have come to the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Do you have anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came to the lab before 2 p.m.? And there's two options here. One is this jacket, but I don't know that... There's the jacket, and then there's still the missing rock. Which is going to tie back into... Oh, man, I don't even know where it is anymore. I don't even know if I still have that evidence. Okay, I don't know if I still have that moon rock evidence, but I do have this.
Take that!
Bullet now. The reveal way by all means. Oh, okay, maybe it's not that one. No. What about you, Your Honor? What do you say? Certainly, I'll help you. I'll help you to remember to think before you speak. Okay. So it wasn't that one. Take me by lemon juice and paper cut. Image of the culprit possibly have been captured anywhere. Anything here in the evidence that can help me Image of the culprit. I mean, I thought it was going to be the jacket, because that's the part that got stabbed, but... Is there anything missing in this? I don't think it's that one. Nothing in here. This is just a... I don't think there's anything in this. The only other thing I can think of is the stolen moon rock.
Take that!
No. Image of the culprit. Possibly been captured anywhere. Anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came to the lab before 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Image of the culprit possibly been captured anywhere. It's not this one. And it's not this one. Can't be this one. The only other image is this.
Take that!
Image of the culprit possibly been captured anywhere. It's not this. It's not this. Is there anything on this case that I'm missing? logo. No. Nothing in the hallway. Was at the crime scene 7 years ago. An image of the culprit possibly have been captured anywhere. I don't know if this is throwing me off or if it's what I should be thinking about, but there's no image of the culprit. Something that has an image in it. The only other thing that there's an image of is this. Prosecutor Blackwell leaving the scene after the incident around 3 p.m. How does... what? Does this video show anyone else passing by there before then? I don't see anything in the investigation report. It looks like they didn't check. Just as I thought. So if we rewind the footage and go back to around 2 p.m., we should be able to see the true culprit leaving the scene. Why wasn't this done? I would have assumed this would have been done before. Let's stop it right there. Okay. I feel like this is something that should have been caught a lot earlier. And he's got the torn jacket and the injured hand. Sykes, do you remember this person? That's him, I'm sure of it. He's wearing my mother's jacket. Yeah, it's the jacket that got ripped. I did, but what I really wanted to see was her jacket. Yeah. So that's leaving the scene after getting stabbed. It's the slash I made with the utility knife that day. I'm sure that knife is under that jacket somewhere. So then, everything Miss Sykes said... exactly. Proves that Miss Sykes' memory was correct. I just really don't know how they missed that one. That seems like if you reviewed the... minor nitpick with this. Killer arrived at the robotics lab before 2 p.m. He killed her and hit her face with a handkerchief. Then he disguised himself with Dr. Sykes' jacket and mask that were there in the lab. The culprit probably knew beforehand that Ponko charged up at 2 p.m. every day. So he waited for Ponko to come to the lab for her regular recharge. By leaving Dr. Sykes' jacket on, the culprit tricked Ponko into thinking he was Dr. Sykes, thereby making it look like she was alive up to that point in time. All this guy's the real time of death.
Objection!
It's a nice theory, Mr. Wright, but I'm afraid that it's just not possible. What? Why not? The victim's jacket is clearly visible right there in this video. And that right there is precisely the problem. The ID tag on the jacket at the scene confirms beyond doubt that it belonged to the victim. This jacket. The person who left the lab truly was wearing the victim's jacket. Then how could it possibly have wound up back at the crime scene? What's going on? That doesn't make sense. Edgeworth's right. If the culprit was wearing the jacket, how did it get back to the lab? The killer wouldn't have brought it back. The victim was dead. The defendant brought it back? So you're saying Miss Sykes is an accomplice then?
Objection!
No. I'm believing Miss Sykes' complete innocence. A bitter end. The way things are going, it might very well be a bitter end for the both of you. Okay. The killer brought it? The victim couldn't have brought it back, because the victim would have been dead by then. Jacket is disguised to make his murder conceal that fact. He had to get the jacket back to the crime scene. So the culprit simply returned to the robotics lab later and planted it there. Contradiction resolved.
Objection.
Except that it would have been impossible. The only people who came to the robotics lab, Prosecutor Blackwell and the people who reported the body, they claimed the jacket was there when they arrived. When do you propose this mysterious man of yours had a chance to return it? A puzzling question indeed. When did the culprit have the chance to bring the jacket back? It have to have been when the body was found. It could have been at the time of the murder. So the body was found. Mr. Wright, do you realize the implication of that argument? People who reported the killer were the prosecutor Blackwell and the people who reported the body. I do. Most people, when they come across a murder, focus their attention on the body. The culprit could have taken advantage of that split second to plant the jacket. In other words, the true culprit of this case, the man known as the Phantom, is one of the first people to discover the body. I would never have thought of that. I mean, you rule out the impossible. Everything that's left. The body was discovered and reported by a group of 3 people. They were there to collect the space probe's capsule in preparation for the HAT-1 launch. One of those people had a special bag to transport the capsule in. Oh, you mean the shock-resistant bag? Correct. I suppose that if the jacket was in that bag, it could have been returned to the scene of the crime without anyone noticing. I'll see to it that you get the reports on those 3 people. You will? We should also check the facial recognition database for that robot. This person felt the need to hide his face with a theater mask. It might mean that his facial data was once registered. Oh, that's a good point. Does this mean... I have to admit, I believe Ms. Sykes' memories to be credible. You win, right? Not that this was ever an official trial anyway. Do my ears deceive me? Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you actually conceding? Well, we have to find these people first. True, boss. Does this mean... I can't believe it. It's over. Well, not yet. Your Honor, I see no need to further... No, we need to... Hold on, Mr. Wright. You've forgotten who's in charge of this trial. That's right. I'm the one who's supposed to say, I see no need for further prolong. Not you either, Your Honor. Now, silence. The little princess who was truly beloved by Metis and who repaid that love with death. All these years, hating Athena was the only thing that's kept me going. But what do I do now? Can anybody tell me? How am I supposed to go on? Miss Blackwell. How unlike you, Aura. Metis was deeply passionate about her work, and she chose you as her partner. Isn't that... Shut up, Simon. You know exactly how I felt about her. Respect as a coworker wasn't all that I wanted. And what did you want from her? Did you really just go there, Your Honor? Aura, there is something I've wanted to say, if you'll lend me an ear. I have in my possession a lead on who Metis' murderer is. You do? Right, Dono. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom of 7 years past. That's right. The Phantom. The person Blackwell has been looking for, even from behind bars. 7 years ago, somebody hatched a plan to sabotage the HAT-1 rocket. The spy, but he was no ordinary spy. We knew naught about him, his background, appearance. We came to refer to him as the Phantom. At the time, I was working with the police to hunt him down, and then one day, a miracle occurred, and I obtained a lead on him. How exciting! What was the lead? Recording of the Phantom's voice. The quality was too poor for proper voice analysis. Yet I had hope. Aura's co-worker was a scientist who could analyze human emotions. So I asked her to evaluate the recording using analytical psychology. And that scientist was Dr. Sykes. Yes, a spy's greatest fear is to have his true identity discovered. In addition to HAT-1, Dr. Sykes' results in the recording were surely among his targets. In search of the Space Center bore no fruit, so he must have started to panic. He couldn't find them, but where could they have been? Who is to say? Wow, I bet he's never let that out of his sight all these years. How in the world did you smuggle them into prison? Oh, I have my ways. What's more, my partner is especially talented at that sort of thing. I worked to lure the Phantom in by spreading rumors throughout the underworld. I was even granted permission to prosecute cases to attract the Phantom's attention. Just try to retrieve your identity, you bloody butcher, became my taunt. And what about the results Dr. Sykes drew up for you? Was there any useful information? Here, you can see for yourself. Take good care of it. It's all I have left of my mentor. I will. Better hold on to this real tight. His emotions rarely fluctuate, and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. Psychological profile classified. Emotional output of this voice extremely weak compared to typical voices. Subject deemed to have unique psychological makeup with almost no emotional fluctuation. No emotional fluctuation, huh? A spy who experiences no emotions, not sadness nor anger, naturally no fear, is the very definition of a phantom, a monster with no heart, don't you see? This creature is the rut that destroyed our lives and set what ails us all into motion. Phantom, indeed, a fitting name for the one who's brought darkness to our world. Well then, it seems a faint image of this man has started to take shape. Based on what we have learned, I'd like all of you to conduct further investigation. This is not a formal trial, but I do want to follow protocol. If I may, I'd like to hand down my verdicts and bring these proceedings to an end. Whatever. Do what you want. You'll hear no objections from me. Yes, please, Your Honor. It's over. It's finally over. Very well. In that case, Prosecutor Blackwell, could you please take the stand? As a result of this trial, your innocence has been proven. The verdict handed down 7 years ago is hereby overturned. And now, the defendant of the current trial, Miss Athena Sykes. Yes, Your Honor? Mr. Wright, thank you. Thank you for everything. Athena, you're more than welcome. If everyone is ready, I will now give my verdict. You? Apollo! What is the meaning of this? Congratulations, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Edgeworth. You uncovered the truth from 7 years ago and you saved Prosecutor Blackwell. However, you can't allow this trial to end just yet. Why, Apollo? Why would you do this to us? There's this much left to go? Really? December 20th, District Court. Mr. Justice, please explain yourself. It's very simple. There isn't much to explain. The defendant, Miss Athena Sykes, might not be innocent. What are you talking about? The case from 7 years ago has been settled. I'm not talking about the past here. I'm talking about the present case. It's still not clear who killed Clay Terran. But, Apollo, why would you... Miss Sykes, please listen quietly to what I have to say. What in the world is Apollo trying to do? Your Honor, please allow me a little of the court's time. But this is a trial for the case from 7 years ago. Ms. Blackwell, I'd like to ask a favor of you. Just as you lost someone close to you, I lost someone close to me, too. I'm sure you want to know the real truth of what happened as much as I do. Apollo. Hehe. Sure, you know, I'm all for the truth. Now let's see you expose the princess's guilt. Judge, I give my permission. Continue with the trial. Very well. Is that all right with you, Prosecutor Edgeworth? The prosecution has no objections. Let's hear Mr. Justice's testimony. I'll have the police's investigation report brought immediately. Not you too, Edgeworth. I really hope it's because you have something up your sleeve. Very well. Your opening statement, please, Prosecutor Edgeworth. As you wish. Let's review the case of the murder of Mr. Clay Tarrant. It's made clear in the previous trial that Solomon Starbuck was not his killer. Therefore, the true culprit was someone else. On that day, this culprit waited for the astronauts at boarding lounge 1. When the two men made their escape out of the Space Museum, the killer attacked Mr. Tarrant with the same type of knife that was used 7 years ago. Oh boy, that's not looking great. The murderer then escaped into the Space Museum. Next, director Yuri Cosmos switched the launch pads. After that, the culprit exited the Space Museum and escaped via boarding lounge 2. Therefore, this trial must make clear who Mr. Tarrant's true killer was. In other words, we must discover who it was that escaped to the Space Museum that day. Thank you, Prosecutor Edgeworth. Mr. Wright, is the defense ready? Yes, Your Honor. Better rearrange my evidence. Relevant evidence swapped into the court record. Now then, Mr. Justice, your testimony, if you please. Oh, man. Just knocking out everything all at once here. I suspected Miss Sykes for the murder of Clay Tarrant. Actually, this has been going for 2 hours, and if this is another 2 hours, there's no way I'm going to finish this tonight. I think I'm gonna have to stop, actually. Yeah, as much as I'd like to keep going, I don't think this is gonna get finished tonight. It's already pretty late. Oh boy. Well, yeah, unfortunately it looks like we're going to have to wrap this up next time. Hopefully wrap this up next time. Yeah. Well, it certainly has taken a turn. Stuff is getting cleared up, but there's still a lot left to go, I guess. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll be able to, might be able to do this tomorrow. We'll see how things go, scheduling. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll catch you next time.